Hello, this is Mike Young from Decision Workshops, and in this third video on the Syrian crisis, I'm going to use dilemma analysis to look at things the West, especially the USA, could have done in August. Here's the situation in August. The US says, I've got evidence, but I'm not going to show it to you yet, but trust me. Assad says, I doubt that you are able to. Whether he thinks so or not, what is openly declared is that he doesn't think that the US has the evidence. He thinks it's a lie and it's a repeat of Iraq. That's what he's saying. Whether he believes it or not is irrelevant. What he's saying is that. And the Russians are also saying they're not sure. Give me the evidence. And that's represented by these little question marks. After the attack, the US said it had the evidence and would show it, just not yet. And the world was just not ready to hear those words, trust me. The US was behaving in the same way it would have if this had all been a neocon plot. So let's suppose the US had dealt with this problem, this row first, showing the evidence before even talking about military action or overriding the UN. Supposing the US had said, before we do anything, we want to check who was responsible. We think it was Assad, but let's look, and we're not going to attack until we've done that. We'll hold that off for now. But what we do want is for you to testify in the investigations and for you to allow anyone to come in thorough international inspections. Now, what would Assad say to that? He would have to agree. He'd have to say, yes, I'll do that. Otherwise, his narrative would be ruined. He said he was innocent. Let him justify himself. And so that could be the Americans' position, to use the evidence first, to bring that to the top of the agenda and talk about that before thinking about the strikes, even if they know for certain that Assad is guilty. They want to show it to the world. And the British would probably go along with this. Now, what could possibly go wrong? Well, there's some things that might. Assad might say he's going to testify, but would the USA and the UK believe him? They think he's saying that, but not actually going to do it. So we represent that again by another question mark, another trust dilemma we can see appearing. So, is there something we can promise Assad to get rid of our trust dilemma? Probably there is. There's two things that could be promised. Supposing that there was a promise that if he testified, there would be no legal repercussions. He would not be personally punished. And supposing we promised that if he testified, we'd think about stopping supplying the FSA with arms. And that might be enough to convince us that Assad is going to testify properly. Now, there's problems remaining, and those are with the FSA. By doing all this, we are making enemies with them. Can we cope with that? But this does show an alternate strategy. So if there had been a thorough investigation, these narratives would have changed. The Russians would have had to admit that Assad did it. Assad would have had to backpedal and perhaps blame a rogue commander. And the USA would have not actually punished Assad. So everyone's narrative would change, but Assad's narrative would change the most. He would have to say, actually, it looks like these attacks weren't done by the FSA rebels. So that's what could have happened. In the next video, we're going to return to history and look at what happened in September.